Good day for us. Well done. Now go.
Welcome to the video. I am the Smiley, an achievement hunter, and I like to push my skills to the limit and gain all of those elusive achievements. And let me tell you, this game certainly did that. Cuphead was released back in 2017 with a DLC released 5 years later. We follow the title character Cuphead and Mugman as we watch them spiral into a gambling addiction before being offered a deal with the devil. No, not that kind of deal with the devil, but not too far from it. The devil recruits us to collect soul contracts from the rest of his runaway debtors that are spread throughout this world. Obviously, these debtors are not going to hand themselves over willingly, and that is why the Elder Kettle gives us the ability to attack whilst fighting for the contract. With an estimated time for completion for the base game around 30 hours and a difficult rating of 8 out of 10, this is going to push my limits, not only in skill, but also in patience and determination. According to the guide, the DLC tones down that difficulty with a rating of 6 out of 10 and a completion time of about 10 hours. So that's the goal to beat, 40 hours for a full completion. How do we plan on unlocking everything? The steps that we've taken were, as always, to try and enjoy the game for all that it offers whilst beating the game on regular difficulty. Then it's to obtain an A rank on all the bosses across the base game, rebeat all of the game but on expert difficulty, hoping that got better at this point, beat all of the pacifist run and gun levels and any of the miscellaneous achievements that are left, and then finally the DLC. So we jump into the first island, Inkwell Isle 1, where the bosses are the easiest and they're really easy into the fight ahead. Each island has its own mix of bosses and run and gun levels. The boss fights take a lot of practice to get used to. No! The run and gun levels, at least for me, took a brain power that I've not unlocked for this game yet. Wrong button. Wrong button. It's really going to take a while to have this game complete. Before taking on a boss, we found some coins in the tutorial, so being the savvy investor that I am, spent it straight away, and for no particular reason other than I saw big damage, we bought the spread shot. Short range with great damage if you can keep close to your target. And now it's time to take on the first boss, the root pack. After getting my behind handed to me from the first boss, finally took it down, unlocking the first achievement, which also came with a warning from chat. Way! First achievement, defeat a boss. Easy. DLC is the hard part of this game. Brilliant. We're going to do well then. But we'll pick up a few achievements. Way! Achievement unlocked. I don't know what it was for, but we'll have a look in a minute. 20 parries. Go on then. Achievement unlocked, finding a shortcut before entering the hardest challenge on the first isle, Bilderberg, threatening Zeppelin. This stupid laugh attack seemed to hit me far too many times for absolutely no reason at all. Don't like that, haha. Wait, do 100 parries. And then after taking down the last boss on the first isle, we get this. Yes! Achievement unlocked as well. Defeat every boss in Inkwell Isle. Then we move on to Inkwell Isle 2, which follows in the same pattern as the first. Okay. Starting off with purchasing a new weapon, which chat suggested, and by the way, helps out a lot. It does do less damage, but with it homing in on the boss, I hit the boss more often, doing more damage overall. Well, at least it felt that way. Anyway, this isle has a few tricky bosses. Get in. So much easier with bombs. But also some that I finished really quickly. But then this is where it took a turn for the worst in taking on this dragon. This is where the first sticking point began. The first phase isn't that bad between dodging the rings, the fireballs, and also the dragon's tail. The second phase is where it took a while for me to understand. Which one's jump? The fire creatures jump at you randomly at all whilst you need to jump from cloud to cloud. Before the final section, with the balls that the dragon spits, when you shoot them, they do split into more and fire in all directions. With a fire attack that covers a third of the screen. But then after defeating this boss, we are rewarded with 3 achievements. 3 achievements, come on! Defeat a level without getting hit? How on earth have we just done that? We do attempt the run and gun levels. What the heck? Before deciding we're going to leave this for a later date. Then the third and final island begins with 2 fast achievements. Parry 5 times without hitting the ground. Didn't even know that was an achievement, but we've got it. Yes! And another achievement. Obtain all super arts. And then back to grinding out those bosses. I can't do this, to be fair. This boss is unique in its design, as we have to destroy certain parts of the body rather than just shooting it anywhere. And then there's this final bullet hell stage, which just blew my mind to begin with. Some of the bosses I personally struggled with, and chat had agreed that were technically some of the easier bosses, but flying quite literally through one of the bosses. We don't need to dodge the green things, we've already done it. We take down a few more, some of which are a little bit more difficult and some are relatively easy, like Sally's stage play. This was a break in the torch for this isle, and then after beating the last boss on this island, I unlocked this. Get in! Defeat every boss in Inkwell Isle, 3 as well. We did that hitless, by the way. And finally, we've got 2 bosses left in this game. Before we can take on the main boss, which is the devil, King Dice is still in our way. This fight is unique to any boss that we fought previously in this game. Is this an hard boss or what? Each time that we stop the dice, it can land on one of the mini bosses. Some of these mini bosses are easier than others, so you need to work out a path that you want to go to before you take on King Dice himself. Some of the squares also have an extra heart located to them, so if you land on this, you get an extra bit of health. And then it's King Dice himself, which isn't too bad of a fight. We did use the pea sugar ability, so we can jump up onto the cards and just parry automatically. Using our super ability, we also unlock these. Oh, 2 achievements! Complete the casino and defeat King Dice without taking a hit. And the first time I actually beat this boss, we did it without taking any damage, so thankfully we don't need to repeat that boss again. Well, at least for a while. And then on to the final boss of the game, we are given an option to join the devil and forever be a slave to his command, or we can fight him ready to free everyone. In my chat, everyone was telling me that this fight is a lot easier than Dice King. I disagree massively. I do not think that is the case. It takes so much getting used to, and this is still on the regular difficulty. The first phase starts off with so many different attacks that it can attack you with. That's a new attack! Where's that attack been? The worst attacks being this clap. You need to time your jump and dash to avoid getting hit. I could not get the timing down for this at all. It took so many attempts. Or there's so many different types of fireball that he sends our way. Once the first phase is ended, he drops down into a hole. We're on to the second phase. This is the easiest one in all honesty. Stand on the left 2 platforms and move backwards if a bomb comes out on the other side to avoid damage. If the bomb comes out on your side, parry it. The third section is a little bit crazy, and I got more lucky than good when I beat it. The big thing shoots skulls at you whilst chips are dropping randomly, whilst the other enemies spin down, and you need to jump from platform to platform, all while you still need to do damage to the devil itself. And then the fourth section is a short section, so having a super out here just helped me so much. And finally, taking this boss down, we unlock 2 more achievements. Get in! 2 achievements as well. Defeat the devil and obtain an A rank or higher on all bosses in the Inkwell Isle. And with that, the first playthrough on regular difficulty only is complete. Well, apart from we need to join the dark side for another achievement, so we picked that one up quite quick. Hey, selling out. Give in to the devil. The first step while still playing on regular is to go back through all the bosses that we didn't achieve an A grade on to begin with. In order to get an A grade, you need to meet certain criteria whilst fighting all of the bosses, which are beat the boss in under 2 minutes, complete at least 3 parries, use the super at least 6 times. The super arc counts as using it 5 times, so we just need to use this and use the super ability once more, finish the fight with at least 3 health, and play on the harder difficulties. We actually did beat both the final bosses at an A rank the first time we're playing through, so we don't need to go back through them on regular difficulty. However, we missed at least 1 boss per round, but after grinding these out, we unlocked all of these. We obtain an A rank or higher on all the bosses on Inkwell Isle 1. Oh, thank God we got an A rank as well. Oh, there we go. A grade on every single boss. Then begins the expert grind, another full playthrough of fighting every enemy, but this time on expert. Probably the hardest part of this full completion, not including the DLC, but we'll come to that later. Anyway, why is expert so much harder? Well, the game adds a little bit more to the already challenging game. The bosses have more health, projectiles move a lot quicker, some attacks are combined rather than being separate, some of the bosses have different attacks that we will also need to master. Thankfully, the developers did do us a little bit of a favour by requiring us to only do 1 boss at an S rank. To obtain the S rank, you need to do all of the requirements for an A rank, but at once. So basically, hitless, under 2 minutes, all of the parries, all of the supers, and on expert. Yes! Get an S rank! Lovely. After dying a few times, I decided to actually leave the expert grind until I've done the run and gun pacifist grind. Yes! Get in! thinking that this would be easier. My reasoning for this was to collect all the coins to buy all the weapons so I could use different weapons in each of the boss fights, but these pacifist runs were just a pain in the ass. If you've never played this game or don't know what these are, basically it's completing these levels without shooting a singular shot. I also discovered in some of the levels you can't parry them either. Thank God. Thanks game, that's 2 hours of my life wasted parrying the enemies only to get a B grade. Excuse me? Why is that only a B grade? Each island has 2 of the run and gun levels, and it probably comes as no surprise that I'd not done this in any of the previous runs. The first island is pretty much really easy. Combining the smoke dash and the invincibility super art means that at the end of the level, the little mini boss we can just skip over or through. The second island is where the difficulty goes from a 1 to an 11 out of 10. Not only is it difficult for my brain to comprehend being upside down, but without being able to shoot, I couldn't just complete this level on a normal run. Now I have to try and beat it for the first time without shooting. The second one's not really that bad, as long as you have the invincibility you can get through one of the bosses and then just take your time to finish the stage, dodging the hot dog saucers. Then from an 11 out of 10 difficulty, we come to the last island. Nah, this is doing me head in. The first one is probably the easier of the two, with a few sections that just suck. Having to jump on the edge of this pillar to avoid damage. I know full well that there'll be a different way to do this, but I found that this is the most consistent. Then after you've done that, you've got these walls which you have to wait to be high enough to parry over them. Whatever. Anyway, the last run and gun level. This Kraken level took over 2 full hours of grinds back to back to beat. As I said earlier, I didn't expect that I couldn't parry the enemies, which I was doing for the invincibility moment on the last section. You have to constantly parry the Kraken's head to make it move to shoot the obstacles in its way, otherwise you can't finish the level. Whilst dodging this enemy that fires a high bullet, it also fires a low bullet, whilst also dodging these shrimp things that fire at you randomly, whilst being on a platform which is about 3 steps wide. Honestly, I almost gave up. There is a way that we can gain more health. When we're on the overworld, if you spin around in circles, the genie pops up, giving you a lot more health. When we finally beat this level, with using our extra health, we got a B grade. Fueled with anger and gamer rage, we went back in, and 2 runs later, we did it hitless. Easy. It's easy. Don't know what the issue is. Complete all the levels without killing an enemy. Pacifist runs completed and back onto the expert grind. As I said, we only need to get an S grade on one of these bosses. Some of the easier bosses becoming a nightmare. Wrong button. And nightmare bosses just haunting my life. Yep. Ignoring Hildeberg. The first 2 islands are pretty easy to do with the amount of practice I've had. I thought that the dragon boss, Grim Matchstick, would have been extremely hard, but the amount of time and effort that we put into it in regular, it was a breeze. Get in. We've done it. Blobber for the win. Then comes the third island, Captain Briny Beard, which is one of the easiest bosses on this island, either that or Sally stage play. Then Calamaria, which I'd beaten almost instantly on regular, and also got an A grade. So when I was doing expert, I totally forgot that this fight existed. A lot harder on expert, but after a few attempts, we smashed it. Then Phantom Express. Chat was always telling me this is where I'd struggle on the expert run. But you can cheese a lot of these sections. First, you can just about hit him with a spread shot while standing on the edge of the platform. The second, you can avoid the hands if you're in the wrong place by being on the edge of the platform again. The third, you can cheese it so hard with spread shot, just stand in the very corner of the platform and shoot the skulls when they're in the middle of the platform to avoid them moving it forward. Save your super and instantly hit the tail on the 4th phase to open up the cage. Use your super, hit the tail, and a few chaser shots later, this boss is down. Then we've got 2 more bosses left, and I left these to the end of the island because I struggled on these on regular. Werner Werman, the rat boss, I hate so much. This middle phase is just RNG sometimes. There's literally no safe spots. Like, there's no safe spot. There was no safe spot then because he had one coming in from either side and the fire was at the top. But finally, after taking this boss down, we somehow not unlocked this achievement previous. Beat a boss with an X special move, we'll have that. And then we're on to the hardest normal boss, Dr. Carl's robot. So back to having to shoot the 3 specific points on its body before we can move on to the next phase. The second phase, I avoid shooting the boss and just shoot the bombs to gain a superpower for the 3rd section, the bullet hell section. So we could go into it with a big chunk of damage taken off straight away. And then once we've done that, we'll keep parrying, and every time we get a super, we'll keep firing it at the boss. After a few hours later, we finally take it down. Then Casino King. After numerous attempts and trying to figure out the best path to go through, we found the path, we went straight through the boss, and the final section was easy enough. We did the same again by using the pea sugar so we get the ability to parry straight away, and after a few attempts we took down Casino King on expert. Then it's the devil fight. There's more purple guys, there's faster attacks to learn, and the fireball attacks are just undodgeable at times. Getting through the first phase was hard enough. The second phase wasn't too bad, everything is still easy to dodge. The third phase had me raging. The fourth and final phase was so annoying. I'd usually get here with 1 or 2 HP and use the super only to be hit by the falling casino chip and then instantly be killed off by one of the 8,000 tears like the devil cries. So much so that winning the run I thought I'd messed it up anyway. No! Yes! Yes! Complete the game on expert. Fun! And with that, we've beaten almost all of the game. All of the hardest parts done anyway, with just a few miscellaneous achievements left. First off, we need to go and beat a level by only using the small plain bullets. Thankfully, this does count on Casino King's mini boss fights. When starting the casino fight to get to this boss, we unlock this. Wait, never 9 HP at one time? Why have I just got that? Have these mini bosses have a lot less HP. We could take down the horse racing mini boss, and once defeated, only using the mini bullets, we unlock this. Wait, we've done it. Be a boss using all the mini plane bullets. Let's go. Finally, the last achievement that we can get due to the DLC blocking some achievements is to find all of the coins that are scattered throughout the map. We found every one of the kings. Now it's time for the DLC, and after the prior warning from the Twitch chat about how hard this actually is, I was dreading it. The story goes that the bosses on the island have taken ingredients that we need to give back to the chef, who will cook Miss Chalice some food that will bring her back from the astral plane. For the DLC, we do play as a new character, Miss Chalice, who does take some getting used to. She has a double jump ability, and instead of jumping to parry, she dashes to parry. We did the tutorial for another coin before taking on the first enemy, the Moonshine Mob. Getting more progress into this fight and being solved an absolute dream. We won it! Are you having me on? Being the first boss of the DLC, I thought that this was a new knockout animation and not some cheap bait trick. But what do you expect from the mob? Back to the fight, and after not falling for the trick again. Right, don't fall for this idiot again. Idiot. Defeat a boss with Miss Chalice 2-1. We beat the boss, but we'd only got a C grade, but we do receive our first ingredients for defeating them. Taking a break from fighting the enemies, we discover the DLC's variation of the run and gun levels. These are called the King's Games, and in my opinion, they're a lot more fun than the run and gun levels. Instead, each one is a variation of parrying to attack the enemies. The first one, pawns drop, and we need to parry each of the heads off to beat this level. The second is a knight that can do different attacks, and you've got to parry its head to deal damage. If you don't get close enough, it'll just continually taunt you, so you need to get closer to make it attack, so you can attack it once it's recovering. The third is a floating head thing that floats around the map, and you have to parry it to deal damage whilst dodging these bell things it sends out. When you do parry it though, it ignites candles and turns invincible whilst they are lit. Running past the candles and blowing them out turns it back to pink to be parried. The fourth one is the executioner, who sends out his heads of its victims while sharpening its blade, parrying the pink ones back whilst dodging the others. The other levels we haven't found just yet, so back to the boss grind. Chat advised me to use some of the coins that we've got for beating these levels and buying the crack shot, as simply it's the best gun in the game. It would have made some of the fights on the main game so much easier, but being a DLC weapon, I'm glad we didn't use it in the base game. Anyways, it's a bit like Chaser, but it's homing and does a lot more damage. Taking on the second boss for DLC in Glumstone Giant, using this weapon was a breeze. We are still only on regular, but you know, beating it unlocks this. Hey! Defeat a boss, we want to port rounds, new weapons, achievement unlocked. We found the last of the King's Games, so we thought we'd take this on straight away. We need to parry the cannons to hit her, whilst also parrying the lion statues that swipe across the screen. After a few attempts, we beat it and got this. Way! Defeat all of the King's Games champions. There is another achievement linked to these games, but more on that later. Now back to the bosses. The next one I've really struggled on is Mortimer Freeze. Okay then. The hardest phase is this snowman. I just couldn't understand its attack patterns and I kept dying, but once we finally got through phase 2, we was on to the last section, and we did this on our first attempt. With some of the coins that we still have left, we bought the last item in the shop unlocking this. Thank you for the achievement. Buy everything in Port Ryan shop. And then taking down the final boss, we get this. Defeat every boss in Inkwell L4. All the ingredients collected, we hand them back to the chef, and what does he do? Turns into a bad guy. Time for the final boss fight of the DLC. This is a really fun fight with each stage varying in what you need to do. The first phase is all about dodging everything it spawns whilst hitting the chef in the background. Again, crack shot here just helps so much. The second phase is about shooting the salt and pepper pots, and then the last phase is a platforming section where parrying the heart to cause damage. Easy done! Yes, get in, look at that, complete the quest on Inkwell Isle 4. Ignoring a few more achievements and cleanup that we have left to do, we've beaten the DLC in 2 hours, and I'm actually really surprised with how fast we beat all the bosses. Anyway, the miscellaneous achievements that we have left are firstly to go back and beat all the bosses at an A rank. We only had 2 bosses to play back through on regular. The Moonshine Mob, which we didn't actually use Crackshot for originally, or once we did use it, easily completed. And then Mortimer Freeze. This one's a bit more of a grind, and after a beautiful attempt, we got the A rank as well. Oh, obtain an A rank or higher. We absolutely nailed that run. One more achievement that we had to consult a guide on firstly, and apparently it's no help because each playthrough is different, is these 3 climbing contestants give you a clue as to which of these gravestones to touch in order to unlock a secret boss. After not figuring it out, I just guessed and got completely lucky. It unlocked and we got the boss. Wait! Then we actually have to beat this boss, which is very confusing. Everywhere you look is the devil. The devil is the only one that can do damage, and they switch if you look the other way. This confused me, and I still don't really know how I beat it. Thank God for that! This unlocks the cursed relic that we're going to have to power up by beating a few bosses with it equipped. Once you start a fight, you only start with 1 HP, but for some reason on the first fight we had 2 HP. Oh, this thing capture HP at 1. I've got 2 HP! The relic is a combination of all the weapons and all the charms. It cycles through the weapons randomly, and after parrying a certain amount of times you can gain HP back, but after powering it up by starting on the first island to defeat the easier bosses to start with, we beat 7 and we unlock this. Wait, obtain great power, we've done it! Then we have to beat 10 bosses and miss Chalice, so just speedrun began beating the first few bosses again to unlock this. Look at that. Defeat 10 bosses with Miss Chalice. I did attempt another one, which is to defeat a boss using one of Miss Chalice's super abilities, but for some reason it didn't unlock here when I tried it. Then I thought you might have to do it against the boss on the DLC. So back to Inkwell Isle 4 and onto Moonshine Mob. As the last section, we can save a super art 4 and just attack the snail. We've done it. Beat a boss with one of Miss Chalice's super arts. And thankfully it popped. We have one more miscellaneous achievement that we need to get for the DLC, and that is to beat a boss without defeating any of the boss's minions. In the description of the achievement, this one told us it had to be defeated on an Inkwell Isle 4 boss, so at least we didn't waste any time doing it on one of the earlier bosses. It's also not a difficulty related achievement, so we can do this on simple. I chose the boss Esther Winchester because I thought this would be the easiest to avoid the minions, and there aren't that many of them to avoid. After a few attempts, hey, we've done it, we've done 2 in 8 minutes. Now then, there's 2 achievements left out of the whole game and the DLC, starting off with defeating the King's Gauntlet. This is to defeat all 5 of the King's games back to back without dying. If you do die... Oh, I didn't dash. That's right back to the start to begin again. You can't use any charms here, so you can't use anything to increase your health. The Queen is actually really easy. The cannons don't automatically aim, so I just parried them whenever I could and prayed for the best. After doing enough damage, we think we've done enough to unlock the achievement. Where's the achievement, by the way? Thank you. Thank you. And then we've left the hardest achievement till end, get an S rank on one of the Isle 4 bosses. Same procedure as the base game. I need to beat a boss under a certain time frame, beat it on expert, beat it with a minimum of 3 parries, have 3 health at the end of the fight, and use supers a total of 6 times. After trying a few different combinations of weapons and charms, it was suggested in chat to use a heart ring. Do you know something? Because we'll do more damage with it as well, won't we? And we're getting enough parries in. That is a very good shout, you know. We also settled on split shot and crack shot as our main weapon. Before we'd settled on the combination, we did beat this fight an expert, which ended up on this result. Get in! Where's the achievement popped? Turns out that the time to beat this boss, according to the guide, is 2 minutes and 10 seconds. I am so glad I didn't know this at this point. Also, if you don't beat this section in time, you can also unlock this section. What is this bit? After around 90 minutes of attempts, we finally beat the boss. Yes, come on! There is just one more thing left to do, and that is to check how many times I died. Drum roll, please. which I don't really think is that bad, but I am a serial restarter, so in all honesty this should probably be 2 to 5 times higher than it actually is. 35.5 hours later, the game is fully complete. The guide estimated that the base game and the DLC would have taken a total of 40 hours, and I think that my time was saved with the impressive regular difficulty completion of the DLC. If you think you can beat this time, or if you've already beaten it quicker, let me know down in the comments below. But before you go, make sure to smash that like button if you found this achievement hunting guide as thrilling as I did. But if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, ring the bell for notifications, it does really help me out. But for now, I'm the Smiley, signing off, and I'll catch you in the next one.